This is the Ahsoka podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're here at the finale of Ahsoka for Part 8, The Jedi, the Witch and The Warlord.
Allow me to commend you on your efforts today. You've been quite a worthy opponent.
Can you not get me any more power?
I regret we haven't met face to face, and perhaps now we never shall. Still, I know you because I knew your master. I concluded your strategies would be similar. One wonders just how similar you might become. Perhaps this is where a Ronin such as you belongs. Today, victory is mine. Long live the Empire.
Welcome back, fellow rebels, to our Ahsoka podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're talking about Ahsoka, Part 8, The Jedi, the Witch and the Warlord, the finale of potentially Season 1 of Ahsoka. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow rebels. I am one of your other hosts, John. I have a joke for you. A Jedi, a Witch and a Warlord walks into a bar. But that's about it, really. Yes. I'm not creative enough in the comedian sense to come up with a joke like that.
We need a punchline.
Yeah, we'll ask our fellow rebels to give us a punchline on the back of a postcard to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. Rounding out this trio, discussing finale, if we want to call it that. I am Chris.
Well, it's definitely a finale.
It is. There's no episode next week. It's the finale of the season. Yes.
Well, no, is it the season or the series? That is the question.
Well, that is the question.
Yes, absolutely. No confirmation just yet. No little interstitial at the end of the episode. I'm sure, of course, with the writer strikes and actor strikes going on, they didn't have a chance to finally confirm it. At least the writer strike is over, and that's all been settled. But actor strike not settled just yet, so they can't confirm anything. But expecting, I'm sure, an announcement about what's next in the world of Star Wars coming up really soon.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys feel there may have been some creative editing at the end because of Ray Stevenson no longer being with us, that they may have removed some of the parts with Bale and Skull?
I don't think so, because if they were to do that, they probably would have edited them out earlier. I think this is definitely set up thinking that Bale and Skull would be coming back for a second season or the continuation of his story, because right now, definitely by the end of the episode, I'm not going to get into spoilers just yet. We'll get into that in the episode itself, but that is setting up that character has to come back in the next time Ahsoka appears. So, so there will be a recast if they are continuing the story of Ahsoka, I would say.
So should we get into it? Because there is a lot to discuss.
Yes, there is.
But before we do, remember, fellow rebels, you can head on over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can join any Jedi or Sith orientated podcast player of your choice. And of course, we will have our Cantina quiz for our Ahsoka podcast, where we will be bringing you our 8th question of this series. So remember, email us in with all 8 answers to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, where you'll be in with a chance to get your hands on some Ahsoka goodies. You can also send your feedback on all things Star Wars Ahsoka to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com as well as over on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries.
Absolutely. And I did mention on one of our previous podcasts that we're going to do a wrap up of all of our pub quizzes, all of our various pub quizzes, after we've gotten done with a couple of the podcasts in the next couple of weeks' time. So you have a bit of time to get your answers in, probably about 2 or 3 weeks. And then we'll do a wrap up. We're also recording a little bit early. So if you have any feedback that you didn't get in time for Ahsoka, send them in, as John mentioned, and we'll talk about those on our wrap up podcast for Ahsoka. But let's get into the episode, guys. Once again, executive producer for this show and showrunner is Dave Filoni. The episode, once again, of course, like all of the episodes, written by Dave Filoni. And this episode was directed by Rick Famuyiwa, who has directed many episodes of Mandalorian, directed 7 episodes across the 3 seasons of Mandalorian and became executive producer on the 3rd season. If you want to know more about Rick, there's a behind-the-scenes documentary on the 1st season of Mandalorian. It's really wonderful to watch, where all the directors sat around, talked about their style and their approach to Star Wars and the show The Mandalorian. He has great contributions in there, so highly entertaining to watch. So go check that out if you haven't checked it out already.
Definitely.
But John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for the finale of Ahsoka Season 1, Episode 8, The Jedi, the Witch and the Warlord?
Sure. With the cargo loaded onto the Chimaera, Grand Admiral Thrawn orders the Eye of Sion to connect with his Stardestroyer to prepare for the return to a galaxy far, far away. Elsbeth is rewarded with a gift of shadows by the Great Mothers and is given the manifested Blade of Talzin to confront the Jedi. Meanwhile, Ahsoka, Ezra and Sabine make their way to the Nightsisters temple to try and stop Thrawn's escape. As they make their way to the temple, Ezra Bridger constructs a new lightsaber using spare parts from his late master, Kanan Jarrus. En route, they are attacked by 2 TIE fighters that knock out Ahsoka's ship. While Huyang and Noti repair the ship, Ahsoka, Sabine and Ezra make their way to the Chimaera on the back of 2 Howlers, which is now docked with the Eye of Sion. Making their way inside of the temple, they are confronted by Elsbeth and the Night Troopers, whom the Great Mothers keep resurrecting after they are killed. As Ahsoka fights Elsbeth, Sabine and Ezra continue to try and stop Thrawn. After dispatching literally 2 Death Troopers, Sabine uses the Force to help Ezra jump onto the Chimaera. She heads back, leaving Ezra aboard the Chimaera to support Ahsoka attacking the remaining Night Troopers, while Ahsoka kills Elsbeth. In a last-ditch attempt to stop Thrawn, they chase after the Chimaera in the repaired shuttle, but are too late as the Eye of Sion jumps to hyperspace, leaving Ahsoka, Sabine and Huyang stranded on Peridea. As Thrawn and the Great Mothers arrive over Dathomir to unload the ship's cargo, Ezra escapes and reunites with Hera Syndulla and Chopper. Ahsoka, Sabine and Huyang join the Noti and make their new home on Peridea, watched over by Anakin's spirit. Elsewhere on Peridea, Shin Hati joins the bandits, while Baylan Skoll is guided to a mountain by a statue of the Mortis gods as he seeks his new power.
A statue of the Mortis gods, John?
Yes, well, that's what I found out looking on the interweb.
Aha, Google.
And I'm glad I did, because to be honest, I thought we were suddenly in Middle Earth.
Yes, connecting to the Rings of Power.
Yes, as he looks on to the lighthouse version of Mount Doom in the background, flashing away.
Yes. Very cool, very cool. Yes, not much story here to tell about Baylan Skoll and what his plan is, because that's basically all we got in this episode.
Yeah, nor Shin Hati for that matter.
Yeah.
I actually did think she was still on Peridea, even though we hadn't seen her.
Yeah.
So I was quite surprised when she rocked up with her glow stick at the kind of nomads, the bandits campsite.
Yeah, I was really surprised at that.
They kind of just killed the story with those 2 characters, because she left and you thought she was going to try and get back to the fortress to leave.
Yeah.
That was that. So it felt like there was missing a scene where she just was at the base of the fortress as it was being bombarded, and she's like, damn it, I didn't make it in time, where she crests a hill to get there.
Yeah.
It just felt it was missing. And then with Baylan, yeah, it's literally him standing on a statue pointing, the finger doth point the way.
Yeah.
Yes,
and you're
it's
like,
over there.
Yeah, exactly. Over
Exactly.
where? Over there. Oh, right.
Yeah, it was a shame that their kind of arcs were parked, I guess, for want of a better word for this episode. But I mean, at least we got some kind of snapshot into actually what happened to them. But yeah, I would agree. It was a shame they kind of fully parked their story because, you know, in a sense, Shin Hati rocking up at the bandits' campsite is in some ways going against what her master said she was going to do, which was go and join your place in the new empire.
Yeah.
So what has gone through her mind to sort of, in a sense, go against what everything was leading to for her in that sense. So yeah, interesting kind of intriguing stuff there with that little ending. But I feel it was a little bit of a shame that they were parked, but I don't want to be negative about it because I did love this episode.
Yeah, I must say I thought that that Grand Admiral Thrawn and Elsbeth were really, really rude to not even mention Jedi throughout the whole attack. So I was like, hang on a second, is she just resting down in her bunk while they're doing this master plan to stop the Jedi from attacking? And then you see her at the end that she's actually never went back to their ship. But I was like, hang on a second, why isn't he calling on the Jedi that they have on board the Chimaera?
Exactly.
Oh, she's not actually there.
I'm going to my quarters. I've got real saddle sore from that howler.
Exactly. But we may come back to that, circle back into that on our final wrap-up points. So let's leave it there and get into our saber points as we've been discussing our major points from the episode. Let's start off with saber point number 1.
Yes, that's magic. But with a K.
Yes. Let's talk about these opening sequences as each side kind of readies their forces for a potential final showdown as the Chimaera starts to get ready to take off and leave the planet of Peridia to go back to our previously known galaxy, let's call it. So on one side, we have quite a big moment, I suppose. Ezra building his own lightsaber once again. We talked about it last week as Ezra handed over his lightsaber officially to Sabine, saying, that's now yours. Didn't want to take up her lightsaber, the one that she's had for the last, what are we saying, 10 years now, effectively? And now he's building his own lightsaber from scratch. So
he wants it obviously to match with his eyes, the colour of his eyes.
He wanted a blue lightsaber, yes.
Which I thought was quite cool. But this was a great... This was a great little scene, actually, with him and Huyang. You know, Huyang's desperation because he's just rummaging around through all his lightsaber components and kind of making a mess of his kind of organization. But at the same time, then it kind of circles round to Ezra realizing that Huyang also taught Kanan Jarrus and has the part that Ezra is looking for because it was specific to the lightsaber constructed by Kanan back in his day. And so, you know, as Huyang says, it's right that you have this. And of course, so that was just nice little touch point, I think, in terms of, I guess, that new lightsaber and what, you know, what it would mean because, you know, you could see Ezra sort of really sort of then paying attention to Huyang, and of course that more widely sort of connected with Sabine, who had shown up as well. You know, with Huyang sort of talking about the master apprentice relationship, that it's as challenging as it is meaningful, and sort of Sabine kind of looking, you know, away, shall we say, in that moment.
Absolutely. I also love this process of the creation of the lightsaber. You know, it's become such a big moment since we first saw Luke Skywalker create his own one in the original trilogy, and here we have Ezra building his, you know, and again, that Huyang talking about that relationship between Kanan Jarrus and Ezra, Kanan being such a central character in Rebels, and you know, it just bringing him into the fold, even though the character won't appear in the series because he is gone. I thought that was really important. I did love the little Easter egg there for Rebels fans who do know, and for those of us that saw the Bad Batch as well, that he was originally called Caleb Dune, and when he went into hiding, he renamed himself Kanan Jarrus. A great fix from Dave Filoni for all the slagging that George Lucas got for Obi-Wan Kenobi going into hiding as old Ben Kenobi. They'll never find him. So that was his fix. Kanan Jarrus took a new name when he went into hiding after leaving the Jedi Order. So I like that they called out that, of course, Huyang would have known him as his original Jedi name of Caleb.
Yeah, I love this scene, just only because you've covered pretty much all the points. For me, you hit the nail on the head, which is the building of a lightsaber is such a special thing, and it's amazing just to get each time on screen seeing it. they monetized this so much back in the parks because I built a lightsaber in Disneyland.
You did, I know.
And it was amazing.
Uh-huh.
And you get that same sense of awe when you're doing it as a 30-something-year-old man, as watching it on screen. And now I just know they have that new lightsaber more than likely at Disneyland come a week from now.
It's available to pre-order right now from Disney Europe. I saw it last week actually, so I saw his new lightsaber last week available. So
nice.
The second version of Ezra's lightsaber.
Lovely.
And it's just they look lovely. Each lightsaber is unique and to the thing, but it is showing you that you can, they can redo these iconic scenes in a way and still link it to the past. But again, very much, it's now it's a new thing. It's the Ahsoka plus timeline for Ezra and his rebels. It's the kind of now everything in Rebels, the cartoon, was say a this is now the live action. So they're very much setting this. No, this is the way his lightsaber looks. This is the way he looks now as Space Jesus. This is the way he talks about his master. Because I do think they'll give him an apprentice at some point.
Potentially.
And that could be, that very much could be the green-haired kid, Jason, his master's son. They're setting up all of these post, I don't want to say animated like it's a lesser than, but it's just a different timeline. Now, this is Dave Filoni's live-action extravaganza that they're building.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I think the other thing I just quickly liked about this is, Huyang also tells Ezra, the deal between Ahsoka and Sabine.
Yes.
That Ahsoka was training Sabine to be a Jedi, but she thought that Sabine was doing it for the wrong reasons because of the purge of Mandalore by the Empire and the death of her family. And we do get, that resolution, I guess, to that little awkward sticking point between the two, from Ahsoka, reliving through the Force Sabine's actions back on Cetos, and going with Baylan Skoll, to this galaxy, as Ahsoka says, your gamble, paid off. And, she apologizes to Ahsoka, and I like it, it ties back in to the episode with Ahsoka in the World Between Worlds here, where, Ahsoka kind of says, I'm not mad, as I too have made many difficult choices that, only Anakin knew, and he would always stood by her, even when other people were against what Ahsoka was saying. And so, Ahsoka is there for her, and, no matter what happens next. But it's also in the same vein as the support that Anakin gave to her when he was her master. And I kind of liked all that. I thought that tied a real nice little bow around that.
Absolutely. And I even liked Ahsoka saying, I made many choices in the past that people questioned. And the only people that knew that motivation were me and my master. So I'm going to be there for you. I thought that was a really good part of Ahsoka's character. Again, if you haven't watched Rebels, if you haven't watched the Clone Wars, the thing about Ahsoka was that she was a very powerful Jedi. She did go through the whole process. She was very committed to the Jedi Order. And then they turned on her and she lost out on becoming a Jedi Master and left the Order because of it. So, so it's a really strong part of her character that she was a true believer in the ideology of the Jedi and they turned on her. So I like that she's taking on board the lessons that she had from her master and transferring them now to her new Padawan. I think it's kind of cool.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think the other bit of magic here is that we do see Elsbeth being rewarded for all her endeavors here, and being given the gift of the shadows by her great mothers, this magical ceremony of the great mothers. And looking at it, they really are pretty powerful entities, the Great Mothers. To be able to manifest then the Blade of Talzin for Elsbeth, as a weapon against the Jedi and the lightsaber. So
yes,
I enjoyed all this, I also enjoyed the fact that I guess it was foreshadowing, what was to come in the episode, but where Elsbeth, says to Grand Admiral Thrawn, there's little that the Jedi can do to stop us, as Thrawn gives her a bit of sage advice, about assuming that everything is now sort of fine and dandy or hunky-dory, as many Imperial officers have also made that assumption about the Jedi, that, there's nothing that they can do now, even himself.
Yes.
So I kind of like that, never write off a Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was, I thought that was a really nice kind of opening here. I mean, that actually, the opening sequence with, again, the Chimaera over the temple, but as the TIE fighters deploy as the backdrop to Thrawn, I thought that shot was incredible.
It was
I was like,
fantastic.
that is a cinema shot, without a shadow of a doubt, but done for TV, and it was just great.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. I also loved Elsbeth stepping back with her new sword in her hand as she has her new power bestowed upon her by the Great Mothers. Thought that was a great shot, and then it panning back to Thrawn with the TIE fighters overhead. Very cool. Like, one of the things I absolutely love with Filoni's version of Star Wars, and to some extent, of course, George Lucas as well, but he's really leaning into the fact that this is a fantasy set in a galaxy far, far away. This is not science fiction. This is fantasy. It's really important to Star Wars that it's never confused with Star Trek, the complete science transferred to the future. They are not the same thing. This is just a fantasy set in a galaxy far, far away. So that's why he's able to bring in things like witches and these kind of powers in here, the Jedi powers, etc. It's cool. He just does a really good job around it.
I'm sure there's going to be internet videos, a mile a dozen, about the lore of the sword and who, what, where, and how it all kind of links back. But do you, either of you know? Because I'm just kind of like, I was like, who, the what, then where?
Yes, I can help.
Okay.
I can help.
Please do.
Yes, Clone Wars, season 6, episode 9. There is an episode with Mace Windu, who we all remember, played by Samuel L. Jackson in the movies, and Jar Jar Binks, shockingly enough, going on a mission to a planet which is controlled by a Great Mother, a member of the Nightsisters, who's been elevated to status of Great Mother, and she also pulls the Blade of Talzin out of the air to battle against Mace Windu. So we have seen it before. It only made one appearance, but it is a special weapon assigned and can be pulled forth to battle against Jedi by the Nightsisters. So
okay, and then they just kind of they just supercharged her with magic. Essentially, they gave her access to Great Mother level of magic.
No, they pulled the weapon and handed it to Elsbeth. Remember, so it's only Great Mother, I guess, level who can pull it out of the air. Yeah.
Yes.
Did they do something to Morgan to kind of, her eyes went black, she got the extra scarring on her face? Well, like, that's the bit I just didn't like. Did they just kind of go, okay, you're getting an upgrade, kind of like?
Basically.
I think so, and I think it was uplifting her probably to their level. It's just she, didn't have time to get changed into her ceremonial red robes, I guess.
Okay.
Because, I think that was the gift of shadows, and we see them deploying part of that power later in the episode.
And she's got the same kind of face markings that the Great Mothers do. They're bestowing them on her. Absolutely. And I 100% believed at that point she was also forswearing her life, forswearing everything to join the Order properly, effectively.
Yeah.
I thought that was, well, look, if she gets struck down by Ahsoka, it'll be okay. She can come back, just like the troopers that we see later in the episode.
Yes.
But no, Chimaera does happen to put complete paid to the place that she died. So I don't think Morgan Elsbeth's getting out of that. You never know. People have survived worse in the Star Wars universe. So
exactly. I did like that. Now, once we saw how the markings were given to Morgan, that I'm looking at the other Great Mothers, looking at their faces, going, so who touched your face in that intricate way? What way did they lay their hands on your face for you to get those markings?
Well, that is true.
I was like, because one of them, I was like, okay, so if I squint my eyes and tilt my head and they kind of put their hand like this, then I think that's your marking. Okay, yes, that's how it done. Because I was just like, okay. Or you had like 8 hands on your face at one go. But either way.
Could be.
It could be, the eight Great Mothers bestowed upon the 9th.
Yeah, we never knew how many of the Nightsisters were originally on this planet. You know, these could be the last 3 surviving members of the Order. There could have been hundreds of them at some point in the past as well. Remember, so
we will find out more.
We have heard that they moved from that planet to our galaxy. So yeah, there were definitely more of them in the past there. So maybe there were 10 different Great Mothers doing the ritual, and now they're only left with 3.
Maybe every single one of those coffins that are aboard the great ship with Thrawn are all Great Mothers.
Absolutely, could be.
It's a good way to move forward into our second saber point.
Absolutely. On to saber point number 2.
Ooh, it's the Night of the Living Troopers. I think we're going to take this as the battle all the way from their ship just after Ezra comes out, delighted and happy and proud with his brand new lightsaber, all the way through to on board the Chimaera. How about that?
I think so.
So buckle in, folks. It is a long saber point number 2.
It can be. But yes, let's talk about that. The flyover of the TIE fighters. I thought that was really cool. Again, love seeing TIE fighters out there in the wild. We've seen this now in
yes,
most
that
of those.
Animal.
Well,
rather than in captivity.
Exactly, rather than in captivity. We talked about that shot of them flying overhead with Grand Admiral Thrawn, but then we see them arrive over Ahsoka and Sabine and Huyang and Ezra as well. But the first thing they do is take out the engines of Ahsoka's ship, and it starts to fall and looks like it's going to crush the Noti. So we get to see Ezra and Ahsoka teaming up with their powers to keep the ship afloat, while Sabine comes up with her quite interesting plan. I love Sabine. I really do. She's just got these way out plans. These are the kind of things we would have seen in Rebels from the character. So I love seeing them brought to life, as she... Just all she wants is a little bit of engine power so she can crash into both of the TIE fighters, take them both out, and destroy the only method they have of getting off the planet. And then she's like, what? I took out the ships.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing is that it's obviously apparent now at this stage that TIE fighters are made out of papier-mâché.
Yes.
Because, I mean, how the wings on Ahsoka's shuttle, those Delta wings, survived that, I don't know.
They're very strong.
But not even damaged. I mean, it would seem like Huyang would have needed a whole new metal forge to sort of repair. There must be some damage, but yeah.
It's okay, he used all the Noti's houses.
Well, yeah, I know. Like, it was cool. I enjoyed it and so on. And I know, like you were saying, it is space fantasy.
Yes.
But I was still like going...
Hold on a second.
But hold on a second. Yeah. I mean, this is like, it's the cuddly toy TIE fighters have just hit into it. It's just like, I was expecting the comedy sort of Teddy squeak to come off them or something.
Counterpoint, if we're going to talk about them like as if it is a science fiction show, remember, TIE fighters, mass-produced product, Jedi starfighters, very few of them in the galaxy, probably much better built. And I love that it was called out by Ahsoka that Huyang has been keeping that ship alive long before she was born, let alone just for the last couple of months since it came off the factory line.
Like, a little thing from me. I thought it was cool. I liked the idea. You could see it. Absolutely.
And it did knock out the ship, so it did have to get fixed, and they couldn't use it, which I thought was quite funny as well.
But as I say, I thought they possibly needed to tow it to Corellia to get it sorted rather than... in the field.
Huyang is a very, very experienced mechanic.
Yeah. He must have melted down his right toe or something like that in order to sort of fix some of it.
He is part of the ship now.
Yeah, exactly.
This looked cool.
Yeah.
Essentially, that reminds you of that scene in Force Unleashed where you see Starkiller like take down, they hold up a ship and then to pull down the ship. You can also kind of go into some of the more recent sequels where Rey Skywalker did the exact same with the ship, but she destroyed hers. I like seeing that use of the Force, that kind of like Superman kind of super heroics. Again, you said it's fantasy, that's what it is. It's like seeing this looked cool visually, sounded cool audibly, and it begs questions for later, but that's fine. Because I think it gets us to, and they're on a journey. They need to go now.
Absolutely.
And it is that kind of instigating factor that kind of runs them forward onto the hounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love cutting back to Grand Admiral Thrawn, where it's not part of his plan. This is not what was supposed to happen, but they are acceptable casualties once again. He said, look, it's the waste of 2 TIE fighters, and that's acceptable. I didn't send a battalion of 100 of them, and all 100 are gone. 2 are gone. He tells Enoch, make sure they get their reward for the squadron leader gets the reward for what happened, for the loss of life there. So in other words, inspire the rest of the men to sacrifice themselves effectively.
Yeah.
But they accomplished their goal, which is, again, like last week's episode, slow down Ahsoka. And now he's got the timings in his head. He's, again, managing those variables and going, okay, that restricts the possibilities that they're going to be able to inhibit my plan.
And he knows then, as he orders Enoch to prepare for a ground assault, as effectively Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra do a full frontal on the temple.
Yes.
And again, this was another scene which I absolutely loved, as the Chimaera rained hellfire upon them, as ordered by Thrawn. And again, the intel from Thrawn, there will be no negotiating with the apprentice of Anakin Skywalker. You know, he's done his homework. He is a nerd. So I really enjoyed this. And I loved the image of the underside batteries firing down. I kind of agreed with Grand Admiral Thrawn's frustration, and I loved seeing that frustration on his face as, you know, they managed to get through and enter into the temple, after they aren't hit in the slightest by
not once.
I know, the whole battery. I mean, even it would have been good if just one of the blasts, because it looked cool, it looked properly cool, had knocked, I don't know, Ahsoka off, and she had to hitch on to the others, the other howler, something like that, because it was raining a lot of laser fire down on there, but it looked amazing, and I really enjoyed it.
I was expecting the final hit to push them, like, knock the howler, and then they tumble through the gate. I was expecting one, because, again, we're getting into Stormtrooper targeting training. Like, Thrawn, you had 15 years, you should have just left them with Enoch on a target range and go, sit there and you gotta hit stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've had nothing else to do but go on the target range.
Yeah, but as we find out later, they've also been deteriorating quite a bit as well.
Yes.
So yes, no, I totally understand, but again, the realization and the anger that's on Thrawn's face that he didn't hit them once, I think is worth it.
Yeah,
I love seeing that moment of, oh God, I'm trying everything here. I'm trying to slow them down. I've tried all the variables here. There is still a possibility these people are going to reach the battalion that I've laid out for them.
Definitely.
So I know he's managing all the variables, but I still think he wants one of these things, one of his plans to completely go his way, and they don't always go his way.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I think to one of Chris's points from an earlier episode, he does have to have that big win as well, where it does all come together. The intel, his adaptability, his tactical genius. And I think that does have to happen. And in a sense, it does by the end of this episode. What I also liked is there were a lot of great facial expressions in here, and sort of the one immediately after Thrawn's frustration and sort of pent up anger at not hitting them is where you see Elsbeth effectively being told that she needs to confront the Jedi that have now been able to get into the temple. And her face, you know, the knowledge. Exactly. You know, she's just been given this, you know, wonderful gift by her great mothers.
Yeah.
But effectively the implication of his ask for the Empire is that you at best will get back on board, but at worst, you're going to be left behind here on Peridia, or you're going to die.
Yes.
So you're just like, I know. I mean, it's literally like getting the present under the Christmas tree on Christmas Day, and then you sit on it and break it, literally. sort of 2 hours later.
Absolutely.
So I did feel for Elsbeth here.
I did. And I also think actually the offer of getting on board wasn't even there.
No.
When he talks about the battalion, he talks about them as volunteers who know the cost of them volunteering to stay behind and at least just slow down the people that are going to kill them. And also, if they do die, they're going to be brought back as zombie troopers.
Cool.
They look cool. And we've now just created in live action a brand new Halloween costume for eternity for Star Wars nerds.
Yep.
I think they look so cool. I love the lights coming on in their eyes as they come back up from the ground. This green magic power that we've seen the Nightsisters use, I thought it looked awesome. And they are totally unstoppable. I love that they still fall like stormtroopers do, but then get back up almost immediately afterwards. So you can still shoot them down, but they get back up and get back up.
I never knew I wanted zombie stormtroopers, and now I know I did.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, even zombie death troopers as well.
Oh, yes.
Which is literally awesome.
Is it not more because they're death? Or
Exactly.
Death troopers.
Yeah. They're literally
DD
death.
troops.
The dead troopers, yeah.
Dead death troopers.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed this because, I mean, again, it is the witchcraft of the Great Mothers.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it echoes from what Thrawn said around how Jedi and the Nightsisters use death and resurrection as a power, as a point of subterfuge, and so on. And so I just kind of really like this. And in a sense, because you don't know how many survived the trip
Absolutely.
Originally to Peridia. So he has, used the Great Mothers here. I mean, we hear Ezra talk about how he awoke them in the temple and used them to effectively rebuild his army of dead, I'm guessing, stormtroopers.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Aboard the ship.
But certainly rebuild his ship as well. Yeah.
That's the question I have is how, because we have that Japanese style of all their armor being kind of put back together with gold and silver kind of pieces, kind of melding it all back together. How many of them are already dead?
Mm.
Yeah.
That is the question. Maybe he did lose half of his battalion already and they're just reanimating because that death trooper, he looked decomposing.
Yeah,
like
didn't he?
He looked a lot more kind of squishy than a fleshy one would.
Yeah, this is the one that goes up against Sabine, and as she's taking her shots against him using her blasters, you see bits of his mask peeling away, and underneath it is like rotting flesh underneath. I love that, though, because they're absolute brutes. They don't say a word, of course, because most stormtroopers don't, but he's fighting back, and as he's getting bits of his mask taken off, he just reaches out and takes off her Mandalorian helmet, as if, like, if my mask is coming off, your mask is coming off.
Absolutely.
What? Your face doesn't look like this too?
Exactly.
No!
I think as well, I did actually like the fact that the zombie troopers here, it did conform to the rules of zombies in that it was destroy the brains, remove their heads, because that was the only way that Ezra and Sabine, at least for these death troopers, got to completely stop them. So I kind of like...
This is fantasy, John. This is fantasy. But you must always adhere to those rules.
Exactly.
There's
you
like
must
a
always
common
adhere
agreement.
to zombie rules.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I really like that. And it was, are they trying to eat brains, or do they want to, I want to eat your force to gain your knowledge? I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yes. Something else also happened in this scene as well. Like you talk about a head coming off, but we also see for the first time Sabine tap into the Force to get back her lightsaber before stabbing that death trooper through the head with it, which was so cool. I love that she turns on her lightsaber through the head. Very cool. But yeah, we have a proper new Force user taking on board all the lessons of our master to at least tap into the Force for the first time, trusting in the Force.
It's really good that on switch worked in that moment.
Absolutely.
Really good.
Yeah.
I do jest, of course, but it was cool. I loved that, and I loved the fact that she used it then, even persuading Ezra, who ultimately went, yeah, I'll roll with it, to help his Force jump through the Force push in order to get him across that gap between the henge on top of the temple to the Stardestroyer.
Yes.
You know?
Massive jump.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I did actually like that. I thought that looked really good on the screen.
Yeah. Go on, Ezra. You go first. I'll catch you. I'll catch you with the Force that I've just connected with. Finally, I feel the power of the Force, and I trust in it completely. You go first.
Yeah, exactly. That was the kind of, and he's like, "Yeah, okay."
I trust in you, Sabine. I guess is what we take from that. It must be. But yeah, I know. We were expecting it to happen. This is the hero moment, of course. We're expecting that he is going to make it across. But there is a moment as he starts to fall out of the sky, before she kicks in with the Force, that I was kind of going, are they going to have him hanging off the bottom of the ship maybe, or something like that he hasn't made the jump? But I didn't think he was going to go splat or anything. But they just have him arc through his jump arc, I suppose. And then she pushes him up from the bottom of it.
It was really cool. I
up.
thought it was really well done, actually.
And they also underpin it with the beautiful Force score from the Star Wars movie as well. The beautiful music that always accompanies the Force. So we have that. He jumps up and takes out 2 more troopers as well. It's very cool. Only other thing about that scene, about the zombie scene, I also do love that they had a bit of that zombie movie trope as they close doors behind them, but the doors aren't enough to hold the zombie troopers behind, so they're breaking through each door as they slowly march on their targets. I like those moments in there. I know it's not a zombie Star Wars movie, but at least they had a couple of those moments as they make their way up.
And I mean, even though they are, I guess, zombified, they still know how to fire a blaster and in effect cut through a blast door.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're not useless.
No.
Exactly. Yeah.
Either.
Yeah.
And that's because it is being, they are being resuscitated and I guess controlled through these dark powers of the Great Mothers. So, they're a bit more effective than a zombie would be.
Absolutely.
Because they wouldn't even be able to bite you through the helmet.
Exactly. Yes. That can't be their modus operandi. They're just being reanimated so they can continue their mission of taking out the Jedi here. But we do also have, as we kind of mentioned already, the Elsbeth versus Ahsoka fight.
This was great. I love these two going at it. It was so good.
This, for me, you talked about the fantasy aspect. I keep coming back to the Western and, which is more John Favreau with The Mandalorian, that type of thing. But this, Ahsoka so far has really, really leaned heavily into the Japanese, the kind of inspired manga and films and things, Lone Wolf and Cub, etc. Because, even this, where they had to, your protagonist must go to a tower, ascend the tower to fight the evil witch with blades against a horde of in this case, undead. Very Japanese. He literally calls Ahsoka a Ronin.
Yes.
In this. They lent into this very much. And I loved it because this fight was that. It was very much the Bane and Skull fights that we've had, where Ahsoka dueling, which is what we love as Star Wars fans. Seeing lightsaber battles is just beautiful to see.
Definitely.
Seeing lightsaber battles not going the way they're supposed to, where they fail, technically really fail, that's where you're like, oh, this is good. And it just gets better. But just the sword work, just looked beautiful.
That's it. I thought the flow of this was really, really good. Going from the sword combat to sort of sweeping the legs from under one another and that kind of almost martial arts stuff. I thought was really, really good. I just loved how it flowed. It felt really epic in terms of the setting of it, but also because you have Elsbeth slicing through one of Ahsoka's lightsabers, then you suddenly go, okay, it's one sword against another here, and ultimately Elsbeth gets cut down, and I was like, and then effectively crushed into the dirt by the temple, being bombarded by the Stardestroyer, and Grand Admiral Thrawn on getting that intel that she's been killed, it's like she's done her job. You'd almost think Elsbeth was or should be one of Thrawn's, close lieutenants.
Yes.
And ultimately, he's used her as a pawn on the game of chess that he is playing. And it was just like, oh no. So, it all felt a little sad for poor Elsbeth.
Yeah. Especially because, what he used her for was another delaying tactic, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, all she had to do was keep Ahsoka back for long enough so that she didn't make it on board the ship. And that's exactly what happens. Ahsoka doesn't make it on board the Chimaera. We do see that, actually Sabine, even though she said to Ezra, then you pull me up after I push you up. She doesn't take that and stays with her master, stays with Ahsoka, here on the planet. So, so maybe she didn't trust in the Force as much as she thought she did. Maybe she thought it happened to work out for Ezra, maybe because of his extra power, and she was kind of going, oh, I'm not up for that. Sometimes when people go for bungee jumps, that happens, right? You go first. Actually, no, I'm not into it. Yeah. So, she stayed behind. Ezra's gone on the Chimaera, and we see another little Ezra nod, I think, to Rebels as he finds the body of a stormtrooper and gets into the suit and hides away for the trip home. Which
in the Rebels, he frequently was on a speeder. Imperial speeder uniform. He would wear a few episodes where he's wearing that undercover. So yeah. And again, there is that moment where, as Thrawn orders the bombardment of the temple, again, you kind of have the Great Mothers looking at him going, you what?
Hang on a second.
Hang on a minute.
Isn't that our home? What are you doing to our home?
What are you doing? So there were a few of those moments where the facial expressions were just really well played.
Yeah.
I thought this was, really superb as you get the Eye of Sion coupled with the Chimaera sort of entering into orbit. I mean, it looked really cool.
Really did.
Yeah.
Excellent. Anything else there about our Night of the Living Troopers?
The final note I'll just, as we move on to our next saber point, is Ahsoka's got to stop jumping into the middle of the air. There's going to be a point where Huang is just going by and he's like, 3, 2, 1. Oh, you meant and 0. Oh God, so sorry. Like they have it down. Like as someone who does a podcast recording with John frequently once a week, there's multiple times our ones and claps where we sync up our audio is sometimes pretty off.
Yeah.
And I mean, true. Like, enough that if I was Ahsoka and you were Harang and you were jumping, and definitely one of us would go splat. And like you would go into the wall or I would go down on the ground. Like, it's
definitely
just 4 out of 5 times.
It's really funny that you say that, because actually that was a joke in last week's episode, and we didn't even mention it on the podcast. When Ahsoka was about to jump out of the ship to catch up with Ezra and Sabine, Huyang says to her, "We're not going to do this again, are we? Do you remember what happened before?" And she goes, "Yes, you missed." And he goes, "Well, I was really sorry about that." Right. So in the past, he has missed those and mistimed them. So
it was a good job he didn't miss this one.
So he didn't mistime this one, thankfully.
It was a long fall down. She would have been with Elsbeth, amongst the rubble.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's get on to our final saber point. Saber point number 3. And I think we kind of have to call it here. The Empire does strike back. Here we are ending this series on an Empire Strikes Back note. The show is called Ahsoka, and we've left Ahsoka in another galaxy as our main antagonist. Grand Admiral Thrawn has arrived back. He's accomplished his plan, his vision, and boy does he taunt her.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I just thought of Cartman going but I loved it. Because, it's kind of just really messing with her head. I commend your efforts.
Yes.
I wish we could have met face to face. It might rue that one now. But then just, that little bit of psychological warfare of And then he also kind of makes reference to, you know, maybe, you know, her past with Anakin Skywalker and to what extent, you know, she might become him as
Absolutely.
well.
Yeah.
You know, so
I knew your master.
Yeah.
You may be very like him. Perhaps this galaxy is a place where a Ronin like you
Yeah.
belongs. And then finishing it off with long live the Empire as he gets the heck out of there. I loved this. I really loved that last taunt from Thrawn while he leaves her behind. And there's nothing they can do. There's nothing left. He, of course, doesn't know that Ezra is aboard his ship. But, yeah, loved it. Really, really interesting.
Yeah.
We also got an answer to the question as to where they were going to arrive to. We thought that they would be traveling on the same path as the Purrgil, but actually they're able to travel to Dathomir because they know the coordinates for Dathomir as well. They're not set on the same path as the arrival. We had assumed last week that they'd be arriving back at Cetos. Much like the New Republic, they also assumed that they were going to arrive back at Cetos because we see that they're all surrounding.
exactly. They are
the
smart.
point. Yes.
They are smart.
They are.
Which was good. Yeah, no, I thought it was pretty smart that they jumped to Dathomir and yeah, you see all their cargo, it must be stormtroopers or night witches.
There was a lot.
This was a lot of
yeah,
it.
yeah. This feels like this could be the army to bring the Imperial
Definitely.
remnant back together again. That's what it seems like. But yeah, I was absolutely doing a Brad Pitt and Seven. What's in the box? What's in the millions of boxes? Please tell us. And we're not going to find that out, unfortunately, this season.
No, we're not. But we do have Ezra making his escape off that Star Destroyer. Which is kind of interesting because, again, maybe just the turbo lasers missed and we just didn't see that. And interestingly, it's going back to the first episode with, you know, that Imperial shuttle arriving on the New Republic starship and him coming out and that whole scene in the docking bay. So I kind of like that.
Is it Baylan Skoll's ship that he took?
It looks like it.
It looks like
I'd
it.
have to go back and watch episode 1 and just confirm, was that exactly the same ship that arrived as well? I just wasn't sure, but I'm just wondering if he took the ship, because Baylan doesn't have it and Shin doesn't have it, so...
But I don't think they brought it aboard the Eye of Sion.
Oh, maybe not.
Either.
Maybe
so
not.
I don't think it is his ship,
Okay.
but it's the same class
Right.
of ship, for sure. Yeah, so I was interested that he had managed to escape the Star Destroyer and that it was done in that way because, you know, you have the Great Mothers knowing that Ahsoka was on her way. So you have this feeling that if they had just consulted their hacky sacks, that maybe they would know that he's on board despite the disguise, and B, he had escaped. So, and, you know, surely the Star Destroyer would spot a shuttle leaving its bay. Because interestingly as well, Enoch talks about ComScan, which was quite good. My little nerdy self went back to Empire Strikes Back, where we first get that, where we have General Veers talking about ComScan has detected a base on Hoth.
Oh,
So
very good.
I thought that was quite good.
Very good. That's when they identified that Ezra and Ahsoka were about to arrive at the planet. Yeah.
So I kind of like that little nod back to
Very cool.
to Empire.
Yeah.
But I love the scene of Ezra coming off the shuttle and it involving Chopper.
Absolutely. Right. We haven't gotten much Chopper in the season so far. But Chris, were you able to interpret Chopper this time? Did you get what he was saying? Because
No.
I actually had a little smile, little tear, because what he's saying is it you? Is it you, Ezra? It's like, oh, little Chop knows his master.
Ah, that's cute. No, I
So
didn't
cute.
get that.
Yeah.
I didn't get. I got the tilting of the head going very much an R2D2 with
Yeah.
Luke.
Mm-hmm.
I just assumed that's what was closer, but I didn't get the actual.
And I like that when Hera raises her laser pistol as he comes off the shuttle, Chopper goes, "Whoa!"
Exactly.
You know?
That I enjoyed.
That was really good. I like this little reunion. I thought it
Absolutely.
was
Exactly. I would have liked to see the escape. That was my only.
Yeah.
I
Me
just
too.
as like literally like you to see the ship as it lands at Dathomir, because we saw the shot of it arriving at Dathomir, literally like Ezra running off. I would have liked that and jumping to hyperspace, because again, it just raises question of how bad a shot are these guys, these death troopers and these zombie troopers. But it just would have been nice to get that. But I understand timings, things like that.
Yeah. Actually, the other side of that, another great shot is the Eye of Sion with the Stardestroyer arriving at Dathomir.
Yes.
And the kind of the hoop of the Eye of Sion sort of fitting around the planet. And then it gradually shrinking around. I thought that was really, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. Like this whole episode had some, I would say, cinematic, and I don't mean to kind of disparage like Disney Plus TV shows, but I mean like proper IMAX cinema screen level shots where you're like, if I saw that on an IMAX or an iSense or whatever kind of large scale cinema screen you're watching, you're going to go, oh, like that Star Destroyer, you would literally feel the rumble as it comes over, like from the top of the screen down. Like it was that kind of level of shots, and you're like, yeah, this is what we're getting. This in my head is where we're going to get with Filoni and his film, and we're going to get those types of shots. He is basically preempting, telling us the storylines, the level of fantasy. He's, like you said, it's really just, sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, absolutely. You know, there was only one episode of this season shown in the cinemas, episode 5, the one written and directed by Filoni. And I think you're right, Chris. You know, it's so interesting to think, considering how cinemas are kind of having their problems with the amount of movies coming out, the amount of movies not making the money that they used to, that kind of thing. Some of the inspiration for Star Wars originally coming from weekly Saturday serials. And it would be so interesting if we went back to that, if the quality that was being produced for TV allowed 6-episode season of a show to be broadcast weekly in theaters, in cinemas, so people would queue up and watch the latest episode of the Star Wars Ahsoka season 2 or something like that. How fascinating would that be if it went back to something like that? You pop down to the cinema for an hour each week to get the premiere of Ahsoka.
And the cost of the ticket is a series pass.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So
they're going to start
not
looking
about
at all
a
these
million.
types of things.
Yeah, exactly. And so that it's also not like, I don't know, so expensive as a single trip.
It's not 25 quid per ticket like it is at the moment. Yeah, absolutely. But it is cool. You're totally right. There's such a style associated with this show, and I hope it's really been hitting with audiences. I think it has. It seems to have been very popular with audiences. I hope people are watching it and allow them to continue investing in this show, because we don't want it to be next season made on a real shoestring budget and everything's in 3 corridors of the Chimaera, and we can't get any exterior shots that weren't filmed for season 1 or something like that.
Unless it's all done by the Stephen DeKnight from the original Daredevil on Netflix, and we get the Netflix hall so it's a whole, every episode is a hallway scene with a lightsaber. Just one Jedi versus a hallway of death troopers.
There you go. There you go. 9 episodes of one shot fight sequences. Probably even Stephen DeKnight couldn't carry that off.
I don't know. He could try. Should we talk about the galaxy far, far away, and not the galaxy far, far away that we go back to? The other galaxy far, far away.
I know, they're going to have to start naming galaxies.
Yeah, so Galaxy A and Galaxy B.
Yeah.
Galaxy A is the usual Star Wars universe. Galaxy B is the galaxy far, far away, where Ahsoka is right now, along with Sabine and Baylan Skoll and Shin Hatai. Like that. So again, they're stranded there.
Yep.
But are they? So this is the thing. Shin Hatai, yes, is stranded there. She's going to hook up with those raiders. Baylan Skoll is going to find his MacGuffin of a superpower that we just don't know about yet.
Yeah.
So Ahsoka and Sabine are with the Noti, but they still have the ship.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they got there via Purgle.
Yes.
So technically, she just has to go up to space, find a Purgle, go, hey, would you mind if we just hop in your mouth again for a bit and we'll be back, pop back to the other place?
Absolutely.
Like, that was the way I was like, it didn't have that level of peril because they're stuck in the galaxy, because I'm like, but they got to that galaxy through the Purgle.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a route out of there, but I don't know whether the peril is meant to be there, because ultimately Ahsoka does say to Sabine, Ezra is where he needs to be, and we are where we need to be. So whether it's through the Force or it's just being really philosophical at a moment of sheer panic, No,
it's through the Force.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
But she is, she knows that they need to be there. There is a reason there, and we ultimately see that through the fact that Shin Hatai and Baylan
Skoll are still there. Yes.
Still there.
So Baylan Skoll will not be unopposed in his quest for whatever that power is. There are now 2 Jedi, or at least a Mandalorian in training as a Jedi and a full-blown Jedi on the planet, possibly able to stop him from achieving his goal. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Love that.
Yeah, and I get that. Maybe that is that whole, like, they need to be there to unoppose, but, like, I took it as more, the way they set it, right, the way it felt to me was, oh no, they're stranded there too.
Right.
And I was like, but they're not, because they got there fine and they can kind of go back.
Yeah.
And then they do have that philosophical, Forcey, Yoda-like response, which he is where it is and we are where we're supposed to be.
Exactly.
And I was like, okay, yeah.
I mean, I think as well with the Purgle, though, their journey there to that planet is governed by, their kind of natural rhythms. Yeah. So the thing is it might be the case, if that's the place where they die, then ultimately they're not there that often.
They're not there every week.
Yeah.
And so
it's not a weekend trip up to Aspen kind of thing.
No, exactly. Yeah. It's so like it could
the last time
be
they went there, they got shot and mined. So it might be a while before they come back.
So I think it's not like a bus that they'll show up.
The number 12's coming.
And if they do, I guess the interesting thing is, well, do they return on their own to die, or with the others that kind of watch them then slowly sort of go into the orbit of Peridia? And I'm guessing they go there as the shoal or the group,
Yeah.
So I think they are stranded there
for now,
but there will be a moment and a season where they're able to get back off there.
Absolutely. And, the other thing to say, Ezra was truly stranded there. Grand Admiral Thrawn may have been able to make some plan to get out of there with his massive ship with hyperspace capability. Ezra was stranded there with nothing. Like he had no ship. He didn't have a ship. No, nothing. He was definitely stranded there until one of his mates decided to, or found a way to make the trip to get there.
Yeah.
There's still a possibility. However far it could be that Ahsoka could take her ship, aim for a second star on the left, and spend 75,000 years traveling between galaxies. So they can at least get off the planet, let's say.
Yeah.
So they're not as stranded, at least, as Ezra was. But I do truly think, in the writing right there from Dave Filoni, when Ahsoka is saying, we are here because the Force believes we should be here, that is him saying, next season, next time we see these characters, they are there to make sure that Baylan Skoll doesn't achieve his goal, and Shin Hatai is dealt with or brought into the fold, or whatever the plan is. But that's absolutely, we are here for a reason. I have to also call out, we see the ghost of Anakin Skywalker, Force ghost, looking on to his Padawan, now a master with her own apprentice, and we see the smile of Hayden Christensen looking on. Really cool. Really cool.
Absolutely. And Sabine also presumably feels his presence.
She seems to, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because Ahsoka doesn't seem to see him.
Yeah.
At least she doesn't mention it. So this is a Force ghost. We know it's a projection from the afterlife. We know that there is some surviving part of that character. It's not just the ghost of a dead relative. It's something a bit more than that. We've had Qui-Gon Jinn reach out to Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. So here we have Anakin Skywalker, who died in the other galaxy, able to reach out to Ahsoka in some way.
Yeah.
But they're not connecting just here. But I did think it was a lovely way to end the series. There's been so much respect paid throughout the series to Anakin Skywalker, the connection with Ahsoka, and bringing that as the final image that we have, I thought was really good.
Yeah, exactly. All the love to Hayden Christensen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel it's a beautiful ending. My problem being is, as of right now, the next time we are seeing Ahsoka and Sabine and Bay and Skull is the Dave Filoni film.
Maybe.
Because as of right now, the schedule is Skeleton Crew, and one other show, and then that's it. Theoretically, that's what they've kind of said as a Star Wars celebration right now.
Yeah.
For me, I'm like, they've left a lot of chess pieces on a board to fill in a 2.5 hour film. Whereas what I would like to see, and I'm hoping upon hope, is that this is Ahsoka season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of tidies a bit more of that up ahead of a film. Because I think, but it's in that kind of, I know it's 70% going to happen that way.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing is because of the WGA strike and the SAG-AFTRA strike and the what's going on in Hollywood right now, they're not doing we didn't get that. Ahsoka will return. End credit.
Yeah.
And that's what I fear is the worst happens.
Fear is the path to the dark side.
It is.
Yes,
but
it is.
it leads me to beg, please, Mr. Disney Plus Bob Iger, give us the season 2 so that more people build in and kind of you get that Mandalorian level it's here kind of approach.
I'm hoping we will, though, as well. I mean, I definitely would like to see a season 2 where they deal with some of this on the small screen. And quite frankly, I would love for Dave Filoni to do a Star Wars movie trilogy. So, the other side of it is, we know we're getting a Star Wars movie, and I know it has been talked about to close off Filoni's kind of arcs, I guess, that he's written and developed through Clone Wars and Rebels and so on, now through this series. But you just don't know in terms of the treatment, because I think you do need to see a bit more. So I would agree with you in that sense, actually, Chris, for sure. But I guess maybe I'm just a bit more hopeful.
And rebellions are built on hope.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I remember from Celebration, this was a comment from Dave Filoni saying he's building towards a film that ties it all together. It wasn't Mandalorian the movie. It wasn't anything like that. He was saying, this is my plan. I am aiming towards a Mandalorian movie. It wasn't scheduled out on a plan that said a specific date or a specific year that it was coming out. This was Dave Filoni laying out, I am now building the shows that I'm building towards a movie. The only one that had been announced was Skeleton Crew. The second season of Andor is in there, but that's leading into Rogue One. That's not even leading into this series. There's the Acolyte that's attached to this series. There was another series that has since been cancelled because of a particular actress that was working on Mandalorian. But things will change and things will move. But what Dave Filoni is saying, don't worry, everybody. If you see a cliffhanger in one of my shows, it'll either be picked up on another show or picked up in the Mandalorian movie or this end movie. So I think that was more just to give everybody a bit of hope that it will all get resolved, but there will be cliffhangers along the way. And I think that's kind of all we got to hope, along with. So, but as with everything, if people don't watch it or people aren't interested in it, we won't get it. So,
no, I agree.
So, yeah.
I think the best way to describe this for me is that I am getting, I want a bit more closure on some of these, and this felt very much like part 1 of a part 2. We're like, you're going into the next series, and because we haven't got that announced yet, I was like, no, please, oh gods and spirits and force gods and everyone else you pray to, please give us that season 2.
Well, the studios could have cut down the time by at least 4 months by making a deal earlier, which they didn't do. So they obviously didn't want the money. So that was their decision. And they could cut it down even further if they make a deal with the actors this week.
Exactly.
So,
and Bale and Skull has a thing about impatience as well.
Yes,
absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Right. Any final notes? There's one thing I know we need to call out.
Yes.
So I'm going to let John call that one out.
We have Sabine spotting an owl.
A spotted owl?
Not a spotted owl. A kind of a white non-spotted owl.
Yes.
Which is something that you saw in Rebels in the world between worlds.
Yes,
that,
you did.
When Ezra goes there for the first time, there is this owl, and he also, he's got his Loth cats, there's the Loth wolves, there's also owls as well. And so this was kind of an interesting little development.
I loved it just because when we were talking about World Between Worlds on the 2 or 3 episodes we talked about it, John, for some reason, was mentioning the L every single time we talked about it. And I was going, that's not important. That's not necessary. And we don't need to include the owls in there. And then it appears in the last episode as a little reference to possibly there's hope that they have a way out of this situation. And John just laughed at me. So John, you were right. I was wrong once again.
Oh, we need our Good Omens soundtrack, I think.
You were right. You were right. I was wrong. You were right.
Excellent. Good stuff. Any other notes from the episode, guys?
None from me.
Nothing from me.
Fantastic. That's it for our coverage of Ahsoka. Hopefully season 1. Chris, overall, what did you think of the episode?
As an episode, I really enjoyed it. The fights, the cinematography, the stunt coordination on those fights. Oh, like some of those lightsaber battles, or what other people may call laser swords. Lightsabers, laser swords, whatever you want to call it. It was still a fantastic vision. We made a joke earlier in our discussions about necromancy, and like, it's just going to be the Nightsisters raising the dead. It happened in the last episode. If I was to score it, it'd be a 4 out of 5 for me. Again, just a lot of the story beats left on the table. Just for me, I was like, I wished I could have got a bit more, like an extra 10 minutes where they just kind of walked Balin Skull up to and into a temple, or just that bit more, because I felt that would have given me a bit more. Again, I'm speaking as my own personal kind of view on this, a bit more resolution. Because we don't have that season 2 announcement yet. Maybe it comes the day after we record this podcast, and then I'm like, cool. That I then bump it to a 4.5 out of 5. But honestly, that's just it. I just wish there was a bit more to this meatiness and story, hoping we get a lot more. So overall, really enjoyed it. And we'll have our kind of wrap up when we do our wrap up of our quiz for this show. I'll give my final kind of full season thoughts quickly as well. But we'll do that then. Derek, what did you think of this final episode?
Absolutely love this. Perfect closing for the season for me. We often talk about what's your favorite Star Wars movie. We often land on Empire Strikes Back, and as Star Wars fans collectively, I think Empire Strikes Back being the most loved because it's so different from all the other movies. And I think Ahsoka as a series has been so different. The only extra benefit of the series was we're dealing with characters really familiar to me, who I absolutely love seeing on screen. While we didn't get enough time with some of them, definitely Chopper needed way more screen time. Definitely Hera needed more than just her moments that we saw earlier on in the season. The whole storyline of getting Ahsoka, Sabine and Ezra back together to propel Ezra back to his rightful place amongst the rebels. Absolutely wonderful. Loved it. Loved the close out of the season. This particular episode, you mentioned it, Chris, it's some absolutely stunning visuals, great moments with Grand Admiral Thrawn, laughing, cackling, also getting very angry at his plans not going the way that he wanted them to go, but they still succeeded, and he was willing to rub Ahsoka's face in it for that. Really enjoyed it. I think this is it's definitely up there with Andor as my favorite type of Star Wars show, but both are in equal pegs, one telling a completely different story to the other. I think they're pretty equal in terms of what Star Wars live action has delivered. And jumping off from one of my favorite animated shows, I think this is definitely in my wheelhouse, and I loved it. Really looking forward to seeing more of all of these characters in the future, whatever configuration that is, whether it is just seeing Ezra interacting with Din Djarin and Mandalorian, or whether we see the entire crew back for a second season of Ahsoka, whatever way it works out. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Great stuff. John, what about yourself? How would you close out your thoughts for this episode of Ahsoka?
Well, a Jedi and a witch and a warlord walk into a bar and... Oh, no, that's for later when we do the Cantina quiz.
Okay.
Yes. No, I really, really enjoyed this. I think actually... my heart would give this 5. I think my sciencey objective brain would kind of give this 4.5 green-eyed monsters out of 5. I absolutely did love the spectacle of this. I loved the emotion. I loved, as we've said, some really fantastically epic sequences that will, be iconic, I think, in the Star Wars lore. Really good. I loved the magic side of it with Elsbeth and the Great Mothers. I really feel sorry for Elsbeth, not only being cut down by Ahsoka, but then effectively, we'll drop a building on you as well.
I know.
It's always irked me when, sort of the rules that apply on one side, in a sense, don't get applied to the others. And I think the TIE fighter sequence, that was, for me, one of those instances where actually the TIE fighter's pilot must have been on the shooting range because they got a shot bang on straight off.
True.
But then how it happened and how they were downed and taken out, I thought looked visually cool. I thought it was really, really good. But it was just like, yeah, that ship's done for, at least on its delta wing. So there was that kind of thing. And
we've talked about it.
I know we have, but it's still, that's how I kind of feel about that scene, to be honest. I thought visually it was absolutely cool. I don't want to say style over potential, fantasy substance, or space fantasy substance, but at the end of the day, the different rules apply. And I think, just all the turbo laser stuff, I know it's a joke and all that, but those little things just kind of niggle at me sometimes because I'm like going, just make it a little bit harder. Even if like one of the explosions had knocked them off the howlers and they had to kind of like run for it or something like that.
Do you think it would have been better if we'd seen Ahsoka using her force powers to deflect the bolts? Like actually showing it on screen that that's what they're doing, that they're not just... missing, that our Jedi-powered heroes are actually avoiding the bolts because they're able to anticipate them, which is part of their training.
Yeah.
It is there. It is in universe. There is an explanation for why they're being missed by these massive cannons shooting down towards them, but it's just not being shown on screen. So potentially if we had a moment where we have an arm wave to show they pushed a bolt out of their future direction. But they are darting quite a lot there.
They are. As I say, it's a minor niggle. I think... And for me, I think just the biggest niggle was the feeling that Baylan Skoll and Shin Hatai's stories were parked here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad they got their little ending. But I really enjoyed these two characters. I thought it was really intriguing at the end of the last episode. And I just think a little bit more time spent with them here. And with hindsight, obviously, for Baylan Skoll's character and with what's happened with Ray Stevens, I think that would have been an even better send-off. Although I just loved the epicness of how Ray Stevenson, on the arm looking towards that mountain, it looked really cool and I was really pleased for him. So they were my kind of niggles, which I think would bring it down. But my heart is definitely a 5. But ultimately on reflection, and I'm probably still being generous because I absolutely did love this, 4.5 green-eyed monsters out of 5.
Excellent stuff.
Absolutely. R.I.P. Ray Stevenson. Just such a great contribution in this series to the show. And, it's such a shame because it felt, we talked about it right at the start of the season at Star Wars Celebration. He was so excited to be part of the Star Wars universe. And now seeing the series and where his story ended, it probably felt like he was being told, yes, you have a major part in this show, but wait till you see what we've got planned for you in the future of this character. And now, unfortunately, he won't be able to play that role. So, a big legacy, to step up to for whoever takes on that role, in the future. But yeah, what a great contribution he made. Excellent stuff. I think we do need to go to the cantina, John.
We certainly do. Who's going to be the Jedi? Who's going to be the Witch? And who is going to be the Warlord out of the three of us?
I think I have to be, since I'm the planner and the editor and the guy behind the scenes. That makes me the Warlord, right?
Okay, I'll be the Witch. I'll be the Witch. Okay, I get it.
You got the powers.
I'll be the Witch. Right, fellow rebels, fellow quizzers. It is Episode 8. We are on our final question for the Ahsoka Cantina quiz, with question 8. What is the call sign of the Night Trooper that Ezra finds and impersonates?
By impersonate, we mean he stole the outfit of the Night Trooper, and that's what he's wearing when he arrives. But there is a moment where you hear his call sign. Right, cool. John, do you want to give the question one more time?
Yes. What is the call sign of the Night Trooper that Ezra finds and impersonates?
Fantastic. That's the 8th question of 8 in our Star Wars Ahsoka Cantina quiz. Get it together. Get writing right now. Email us to feedback@TV Podcast Industries with correct answers to all 8 questions, and you could be in with a chance of getting your hands on some Star Wars Ahsoka goodies. If you don't remember any of the questions or missed any of the questions, pop on over to the website at tvpodcastindustries.com. There is a pub quiz section up there which has all 8 questions in there at the moment.
Yes, good luck, fellow quizzers and fellow rebels, in your fight to attain supremacy in the cantina.
Absolutely. Let's hear what some of our fellow rebels thought about this episode. Good stuff. First up, we have our email in from Coffee and Vodka, who says, "Greetings, fellow homeward bound defenders. So much of me was giddy with feelings of, this is your father's Star Wars when watching this. This was tempered by Sabine's presence. The bratty embodiment of the subvert your expectations desecration that was The Last Jedi. Soapbox and Sabine aside, this was everything I loved about the original trilogy, taking me back to childhood and any one of my 8 viewings of The Empire Strikes Back in the cinema. Huyang and Chopper went a long way in convincing one that droids are living beings, with the former taking professorly joy in schooling Ezra on the building of lightsaber, and the latter showing force sensitivity in recognizing him at the end of the episode. Ahsoka was the epitome of a Jedi Master in battle acumen, acceptance of situation, and saintliness of patience. Ezra threaded the needle nicely between the attitudes of Ahsoka and Sabine, downright oozing personality. As for the bad guys, is it wrong to root for Thrawn? His brilliant strategies laid out coldly and without ego in support of a cause he believes in was almost hypnotizing to watch. Morgan's epitaph of "she served her purpose" summed up his character perfectly. Finally, I can't wait to see how this setup plays out with Ahsoka, Sabine, Baylan and Shin stranded, Ezra, Thrawn and the sisters in play, and how the New Republic in its infancy deals with this situation. Truly good stuff. 5 heroes Thrawn to the wolves, canny choppers and the Knights of the Living Stormtroopers out of 5. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka. Fantastic, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, good stuff, Coffee and Vodka. I absolutely totally get what you mean. It is really good seeing this on screen.
Yep, absolutely.
For sure. And loved every minute of it, apart from maybe a couple of little nipples. And yeah, The Empire Strikes Back is one of my, well, probably my favourite of all the Star Wars as well. Hence why I'm obsessed with General Veers, to be honest. And dare I say it, Comscan. I mean, who else would know that?
Absolutely. Do you know, there was a moment in last week's episode that John couldn't remember General Veers' name. And for some reason, because he couldn't remember it, I was going, well, it can't be General Veers, because John quotes General Veers all the time. I was really shocked. And then after we were like, oh my God, brain fart. It was General Veers. Yeah.
Not all the time.
All the time.
No, I don't.
In every situation.
You just go around quoting Imperial generals.
That's who I would probably dress up as, if, you know, at a convention. Yep. That would be my outfit.
It would be General Veers.
His outfit of choice.
And I would do a little cardboard AT-AT.
I love it.
Great stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka. We also got an email in from Darth Von Doom, who had this to say. Greetings, New Republicans. Bravo. I feel Dave Filoni and Rick Famuyiwa hit a home run with this finale. They closed some loops and left others open to continue this story. The opening battle in the finale makes a good Halloween special. Thrawn and the witches remind me of Dracula and his brides.
Wow.
I will miss Morgan. It was nice to see a hint of annoyance cross Thrawn's face. I believe the Nightsisters did not take too kindly to Thrawn blowing their temple.
Absolutely.
Could be a future problem for him. We saw Baylan was standing on the statue of Mortis gods. I noticed the daughter figure was destroyed.
Ooh.
Perhaps Amorai the Owl was trying to warn Ahsoka about his plans. I wonder if Force Ghost Anakin can contact the Purgle to help Ahsoka and crew get home. Happy to see Ezra adding to his enemy Trooper helmet collection, and his reunion with Chopper was great. Again, a nice job setting up things for the future. Look forward to the podcast and the feedback. The Force is strong in you, Darth Von Doom.
Fantastic stuff, Darth Von Doom. Love it. And continuing to adopt his moniker for the entire season. Well done,
Yes.
Victor.
Yes.
Love it. Some great points here. I really like your idea that Thrawn and his witches remind him of Dracula and the brides of Dracula. That's quite cool. Yeah, there's definitely a darkness that's in this show.
Yeah.
That's seething in the background, particularly when Thrawn's on screen and the witches are on screen. So I can totally see that.
Yeah, it's just that threat, isn't it? It is like the threat that you got in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, it puts you on edge, around, I guess, what happens with the Jedi or with, the generals in the New Republic and stuff. So really good. And yes, the annoyance across Thrawn's face and the Nightsisters, seeing their temple, getting decimated. I think he could be in trouble, with them for that at some future point. I think we mentioned that previously, will they ultimately end up being his Achilles heel? Will he sort of disregard them too much in the same way that he has done with Morgan Elsbeth, who I will miss as well.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Remember, everything either serves Thrawn's plan or it doesn't. Like, that's basically it. So if the Great Mothers decide that they have a different plan, they could be very quickly discarded by Thrawn. So
although he is getting a lot of intel on them, seeing how they do their stuff.
Very true. Very true.
Great stuff, Victor. And I really do think this is going to potentially set up an amazing opportunity for a Halloween special. So can you just imagine a zombie film on a ship with some of these death troopers? Zombie death troopers. That's an amazing 40-minute Halloween special, just off the cuff. Even animated would be great to watch.
I'm telling you, that's there you go. We've got our assignment between now and the next season of Ahsoka. We have to write the Halloween special. Featuring the Night Troopers. Excellent stuff. Thanks so much for your feedback. We are recording very early this time because myself and John are actually going away for the weekend, so I've got to get straight into editing mode. So if we have not received your feedback on this episode and you'd like to send some into us, please email it into us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or pop on over to the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. There's a spoiler post up there where you can put in any of your thoughts, and we'd love to talk about them. Thanks so much for joining us once again for Star Wars Ahsoka. This season's been great. Hopefully we'll be back in the world of Star Wars. Well, we know when we'll be back in the world of Star Wars with The Bad Batch Season 3 coming next year, the final season of The Bad Batch. Wrapping up the story of all of them, making that connection between Omega and Shin Hatai, I'm sure, in the third season. It won't happen. But until then, we have loads of other shows that we're covering. Right now, we're covering 3 different shows. This is the first of our 2 finales for the week. We will be going to The Wheel of Time for their finale over on Prime Video later on this week. We are also just kicking off our coverage of Gen V, the spin-off of The Boys. First 3 episodes came out last week. Episode 4 coming out on Friday of this week, and we have our podcast ready to go, waiting for you to get into the fun depths, I guess, of of the characters in Gen V. A very different show from this one, but a lot of fun all in. Definitely well worth watching. We are delaying our coverage of Loki. I can say now, we have seen the first 4 episodes of Loki Season 2. All 3 of us have watched the first 4 episodes of the show, but we just couldn't fit in our coverage of it. So we want to hear your thoughts on how you're feeling about Loki as you go through the episodes. And we will get back to Loki Episode 1, I think, next week.
Yeah, I think we'll try and fit it in next week.
Yeah, especially because we'll be down to just 2 shows then.
Yeah, just 2.
Instead of 4 in 1 week.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for everyone for listening to our Ahsoka coverage. It's been great. We've been great. You've been great. It's been great to be here. And with that all said and done, I am Chris, and I will see you in a galaxy far, far away. Now, just remember, going to that galaxy, you take a burgle to the left, and then you get off at the elephant graveyard, and it's the first planet on your right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, fellow rebels, for joining us for this season 1 of Ahsoka. Until season 2, shall I say. Keep watching, keep listening, and keep rebelling.
Absolutely. And keep entering the pub quiz. Send in your answers to the Cantina pub quiz. We will be back with that wrap up, of course, in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.